Chinedu, ordinary taxi driver, navigating the chaotic roads with the patience of a saint. Every day, Chinedu would start his shift at dawn, weaving through traffic, picking up passengers, and dropping them off at their destinations. But one day, a seemingly ordinary ride turned his life upside down. It was a hot Wednesday afternoon, and the sun was blazing over the crowded streets. Chinedu had just finished a ride and was looking for his next passenger when a woman flagged him down. She was standing by the roadside, dressed in a simple ochre gown with a headscarf covering her hair. Her name was Aisha, and she had an air of quiet desperation about her. "Good afternoon, madam," Chinedu greeted as she got into the back seat. "Good afternoon, please take me to Ikoyi," Aisha replied softly. Chinedu nodded and started the engine, merging back into the chaotic traffic. As they drove, Aisha stared out the window, lost in thought. Chinedu, usually one to strike up conversations with his passengers, noticed her silence and decided to respect it. However, after a few minutes, he couldn't help but glance at her through the rearview mirror. "Is everything okay, madam?" he finally asked, breaking the silence. Aisha turned her gaze from the window to Chinedu. Her eyes were red, and it was clear she had been crying. She hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I'm fine, thank you," she said, but her voice was shaky. Chinedu sensed that she needed to talk, so he tried again. "You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but sometimes it helps to talk to a stranger." Aisha looked at him, and after a moment, she began to speak. "I'm going to Ikoyi to meet someone who can help me. My husband has been missing for 2 weeks, and I don't know what to do." Chinedu's heart went out to her. "Have you reported it to the police?" "Yes," Aisha replied, her voice breaking. "But they haven't found anything. No leads, nothing. I'm scared, and I don't know who to trust. I heard about a man in Ikoyi who can help find missing people, but I'm not even sure if he's real." Chinedu listened intently as she poured out her heart. He couldn't imagine the pain she must be feeling, not knowing where her husband was or if he was even alive. He wanted to help, but he didn't know how. As they approached Ikoyi, Aisha gave him the directions to an old, rundown building. "This is it," she said, her voice trembling. "Please wait for me. I won't be long." Chinedu parked the taxi and watched as Aisha walked towards the building. She hesitated at the entrance before disappearing inside. Chinedu waited, feeling a growing sense of unease. Minutes passed, and then an hour, but Aisha didn't return. Worried, Chinedu decided to check on her. He got out of the taxi and walked to the building. The door creaked as he pushed it open, revealing a dimly lit hallway. He called out Aisha's name, but there was no response. His footsteps echoed as he cautiously walked further inside. Suddenly, he heard muffled voices coming from a room at the end of the hallway. He approached the door and slowly pushed it open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. In the center of the room, Aisha was sitting on a chair, and standing in front of her was a tall, imposing man dressed in traditional white robes. Chinedu's presence startled them. The man turned around, and Chinedu felt a chill run down his spine. There was something unsettling about the man's eyes, they were cold, calculating. "Who are you?" the man demanded in a deep voice. "I'm the taxi driver," Chinedu replied, his voice steady. "I was waiting for her." The man studied Chinedu for a moment before nodding. "Leave. This is none of your concern." Chinedu looked at Aisha, who was visibly frightened. He couldn't just leave her there, not when something felt so wrong. Gathering his courage, he took a step forward. "I'm not leaving without her," Chinedu said firmly. The man's eyes narrowed, and he took a step towards Chinedu. But before he could say anything, Aisha suddenly stood up. It's okay, Chinedu, she said, her voice surprisingly calm. I'll be fine. Please, go. Chinedu hesitated, but Aisha gave him a pleading look. Reluctantly, he backed away and left the building. As he drove away, he couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. He parked the taxi a few blocks away and waited. After what felt like an eternity, Aisha finally emerged from the building. She looked shaken but unharmed. She got back into the taxi, and they drove in silence for a while. Thank you, Aisha finally said. You didn't have to wait, but you did. I appreciate that. Chinedu glanced at her through the rearview mirror. Did he help you? Aisha nodded, but her eyes were filled with uncertainty. He said he'll find my husband, but he warned me that the truth might be something I'm not ready to face. Chinedu didn't know what to say, so he simply nodded. They reached her home, and she paid him, thanking him again before getting out of the taxi. As Chinedu drove away, he couldn't stop thinking about Aisha and her missing husband. Days passed, and he found himself driving past her house more often than usual, hoping to see her and hear some news. Then, one evening, as the sun was setting over the Lagos skyline, Chinedu received a call. It was Aisha. Chinedu, I found him, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Your husband? Chinedu asked, his heart racing. Yes, Aisha replied, her voice trembling. But he's not the man I thought he was. He was involved in things, terrible things. I'm scared, Chinedu. I don't know what to do. Chinedu felt a wave of dread wash over him. Where are you? Aisha gave him an address in a secluded part of Lagos. Without hesitation, Chinedu drove there as fast as he could. When he arrived, he found Aisha standing by the roadside, clutching a small bag. Her eyes were filled with fear and confusion. He's gone, she said as she got into the taxi. I don't know where, and I don't want to know. I just need to leave, Chinedu. Please, take me anywhere. Chinedu nodded and started driving. They drove in silence, the weight of the situation hanging heavy in the air. Aisha didn't say where she wanted to go, and Chinedu didn't ask. He just kept driving, taking her as far away from the city as possible. As the night grew darker, they finally reached a quiet town far from the chaos of Lagos. Aisha got out of the taxi, and for the first time since they met, she smiled. Thank you, Chinedu, she said, her voice filled with gratitude. You saved me. Chinedu watched as she walked away, disappearing into the night. He never saw her again, but he never forgot her. He often wondered what happened to her, if she ever found peace. But one thing was certain, he had done the right thing, even if it meant never knowing the full truth. And in a city where secrets often remain buried, Chinedu found solace in the fact that sometimes, it's better not to know everything.